Let's dive straight in to the big stories today. I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Diver, Whitehall Correspondent for the Telegraph. And I suppose kicking off today, it feels like it's only just been a little bit of time since the last row was to some extent cauterised, and we're on to a new one. No longer talking about the 45p rate of tax, now we're talking about benefits. What's the argument?
That's right, yeah, you're completely right. It's only just over 24 hours since the government's U-turn on the 45p rate of tax. But now MPs are arguing about whether or not benefits should rise in line with inflation. And the government doesn't want to do that. There are some MPs on the backbenches who feel that that will be a good idea. I mean, in a sense, it is actually the same argument they're having here, which is that Conservative MPs feel that the measures that the government set out in the mini-budget don't accurately reflect the Conservatives' position as a party of people who look after those who need more help, the poorest as well as the rich. And they feel that this budget was too skewed towards those who earn the most, tax breaks for the rich, while at the same time cutting benefits for the poor. Now, the argument from number 10 is, well, if you make universal credit more targeted at people who have jobs and that you taper it more slowly, such that people who work more have their benefits reduced more slowly, but people who don't work receive fewer benefits, then you incentivize people to get back into work. So I think while this is a slightly complicated policy discussion about fiscal policy and you know who gets the money in this budget, really it's a battle for what does it mean to be a Conservative? To be a Conservative, are you a sort of Ian Duncan Smith style compassionate Conservative with a slightly larger welfare state, or are you a Conservative? They would see themselves perhaps as being pro-business, small state, and trying to incentivise people back into work. That's the argument this morning.
Which is such a peculiar dichotomy, because of course the argument over upgrading benefits in line with inflation or not is a difference of about £5 billion. The energy package that Liz Truss announced only a couple of weeks ago could stretch to being £150 billion, far larger than any tax cut announced in the mini-budget, or perhaps we should say maxi-budget these days. But why then is there such consternation amongst what we might call the One Nation wing of the Conservative Party when they have just got the largest bit of state spending since furlough?
Yeah, well, this is, isn't it? It's a battle for the future of the Conservative Party and what the rest of 18 months of this government is going to be for. But you have to remember the 45p rate of tax is only about £2 billion. That's all we're really talking about here. It's not the big spending measures that are the ones that are upsetting people. It's not about how much these measures cost. It's about what it means. It's about the message that it sends to the public. And there is a feeling, talking to MPs last night here at the Conservative Party conference, there's a feeling that the Conservatives are turning themselves back into the nasty party. They're going back to that great Theresa May speech of the noughties, the feeling that the Conservatives don't care about the poor and are only interested in cutting taxes for the rich. That is what is really upsetting MPs. It's not really a question of balancing the books. It's a question of public perception.
Now, how much of this sort of battling within the Conservative Party is being spearheaded by one Michael Gove? Of course, we saw him pop up on television screens on Sunday, leading the charge against the 45p rate of tax cut, clearly making some noises with regard to benefits as well. People thought that Rishi Sunak would be the thorn in the side of Liz Truss. Is Gove the one to watch?
Well, Michael Gove was asked this question by one of my colleagues at the Telegraph, who said, and his response was, "I'm not a rebel ringleader, I'm just a humble backbencher, I'm just going about my business representing my constituents."
You might very well think that. Yeah. I couldn't possibly
exactly.
comment.
He does have quite a good sort of house of cards feeling to him, doesn't he? I mean, there is genuinely a problem for the government in that a lot of the most experienced operators in the Commons are now sitting on the backbenches, and they're in opposition to the government, but on the Conservative side. You know, we've got Grant Shapps, Julian Smith, Michael Gove, Gavin Williamson, all of these sort of real operators, many of whom have been former chief whips, are going up against basically the government's whipping operation led by Wendy Morton, who is much less experienced, who it's felt by some backbenchers doesn't really have the ability to bring backbenchers under control. So I don't know whether or not Michael Gove is leading this. Clearly he's got a lot of involvement in it. He has made no secret of that fact as he's been doing the rounds at Conservative Party conference. And I think he's back out again today doing 2 fringe events this morning where he will no doubt stick the knife in again to the government over these issues. So, but I mean, yes, purely from a party management point of view, they're in a very dangerous position at the moment.
Really, really interesting. It feels like, despite having a majority of about 70 now, it feels like we're in hung parliament territory, really, at some point.
It's like deja vu to the days of Theresa May, doesn't it? We're going to have sort of 18 months of zombie government as we can't get anything through.
Gosh, well, I mean, I suppose there'll be lots and lots for you to write about, lots and lots for us to talk about. But for now, Tony Diver, thank you so much for joining us here on The Briefing this morning.